Okay, I've restarted the session. I honestly don't remember where I left off. Do you do you remember what I was? That break took longer than expected, so you're gonna have to remind me where we left off.
I believe that we were trying. I think you were asking me a question and trying to get me to figure out like what does. You showed me the I guess the bridge table. I guess I don't know if it was a bridge table. No, not the bridge table. You showed me like
The relationships, I think.
yeah, the relationships. You showed me the relationships, and you were asking me a question, trying to get me to figure out a question or something like that.
Did we fill this in yet? No, we didn't. Ah, geez. Okay, so we need to fill this in first. That's gonna take a little bit of time.
Well, the first thing
right.
you were doing,
I needed to know.
me.
Okay, I needed to know how to do constraints. I remember now, and I did figure that out. It wasn't in this table. I needed to add a constraint to this table because I wanted to make sure that every class would only have one professor, and I didn't know how to do constraints, and I actually did look it up. And you just say this is indexed, and that just double click here and it changes it. Yes, no duplicates. So basically it won't allow us to have more than one class ID show up in the bridge so that you can only have one professor per class, which is what I was trying to do. Great, cool. Next step, I need to also make another subform because we have a little class subform so that whenever you have students, you can just like see a list of classes. We need to do this exact same thing for professors. So what I'm gonna do is like each professor, we're gonna have to have like a list of classes, basically. And by doing that, we'll be able to like just assign a bunch of classes to a particular professor and like just start.
So pretty much the same thing we did with the students tab.
Exactly. Exactly. It's almost the exact same thing. So I'm going to set that up real quick. I'm just going to use this space right here. And this is going to take a couple of minutes. Probably should have did this during the break, but it's too late now. I'll just rush through as quickly as possible. I'm going to be taking a lot of shortcuts. Oh, I need to rename this. This is for class selection specifically for professors, not for students. So, oh, wait a minute. Okay, yeah, it does have to be a separate copy. Yeah, it has to be separate. Okay, cool. Okay, this one. So what we need to do now is change this. So instead of this, we'll do this. And instead of student ID, it's going to be professor ID. And instead of that bridge ID, we'll use this bridge ID. And the class remains. That's consistent. Fantastic. Save. And then the sub is going to be, I'm really rushing through this. I'm trying to be respectful of your time, so. Choose from a list. Yeah, sure, whatever. Okay, and let's just make this a little bit bigger. Getting tired?
A little bit.
Yeah. I don't blame you. Well, I'm going max speed, so.
No, take your time. I need to. This is important to know.
And it doesn't let you do it because I created a constraint, so I have to delete that one. You see how I couldn't do it more than once?
So yeah, I'm just about to say like the constraint pretty much like not let you put two people or a person in the same class more than once.
So it's gonna wait until I fix it, and so I can press escape and it'll cancel. Or I could have just pressed delete, right? So intro to art, I already know that as soon as I hit save, this is not gonna work, see? Or until I change it, right? So basically what this lets us do is like when we set a bunch of stuff and like, let's say we go to another professor, let's go to the next Professor Smith and we'll say he's intro to art. All right, so let's save. Nope, can't do it. Cause why? Oh, hold on, I gotta hit it. I can either hit escape or delete. I'm gonna press delete this time, but I could have also pressed the escape key. Why? Because we already have a professor that has that. So that's not a really good error message because it's like, you know, Because like, what does this mean? The changes you requested to the table were not successful because they could create duplicate values in the index. Like, no one's gonna understand what that means. So normally what I would do is like have like a better message than that, but I'm not gonna code that up right now because we're trying to like speed through this. So we're just gonna speed through this. But now notice if I go to class of professors, it works the exact same way.
What do you mean? What did you just say?
Okay, sorry, maybe I'm going too fast. So do you remember back when we did classes and students and how there was a relationship between them, and you're able to tell me what classes have what students and what students have what classes?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do the exact same thing with classes and professors now.
Oh yeah, I figured that.
Yep.
We couldn't do it before, but I figured that's what the main goal was.
Yep, that was the goal. And that's why I made this little form, this little subform of professors, because now, instead of you like having to type in all those numbers, you can kind of just go to each professor and start giving them classes. Jeez. All right. I'm not gonna remember who had what. So for now, we're just gonna do that. Yeah. Okay. Good enough. We'll just assign these two for now. Okay. So.
Wait, hold on. Before can you go back to that real quick?
Sure.
So the constraint not only like it doesn't let you pick two of the same class on these little combo boxes that we have right here. It doesn't let you pick the same class on there, but if you switch to a different professor, you can still pick a different class, right? Like the same class for a different professor, right?
No, you cannot, because if you look, it's going to say error because we've already assigned this to a professor.
Well, you sure you want to make that kind of constraint? Because like, what if you want, like a different professor to teach the same class? Like,
okay, I'm glad you brought that up.
Going for?
I'm glad you brought that up. And yes, that is true. That would be true if you had more than one of any given class. So if you had two algebra classes, like two different algebra classes, but we haven't coded that in yet. We would need a different kind of bridge to do that. And we haven't created that kind of bridge.
Yeah,
but you're right.
Sometimes
in theory, yeah, you could have that happen.
I was saying sometimes I just get a little confused because I'm like, like my mind always drifts to, like, like there's more than one Algebra 2 class like at my college and they're both named the same thing. But I have to go back to the beginning and remember that this is the way we're doing it is that we would name it differently, and there's only that one class, and that class has these many students, and that is just one specific class by itself.
Correct.
But sometimes when I see the data, like I said, my mind drifts and be like, wait, but like, isn't there another Algebra 2 class? I'm like, wait, no, that's not how the data works, and it's just kind of hard to wrap my mind around that sometimes,
You actually, okay, so let me show you something interesting. You actually can have two Algebra 2 classes. You want to show you? Watch. Algebra 2. It's math-based. And then there's tutors, sure. You actually can have two, see? Totally fine. And now, when I go to the students and go Algebra 2, there's Algebra 2, and there's Algebra 2 again. So you actually can have two Algebra 2s.
Yeah, but yeah, in the system, it would be named differently. But the point I was trying to get
No, it's named the same. Algebra 2, Algebra 2. These are two different Algebra 2 classes.
I know, but I'm saying if we were to like release this database, you would want to name it at least slightly different because that's kind of confusing,
No, you wouldn't. Let me show you why. Okay, so I'm going to give them both. I'm going to have two different Algebra 2 classes, right? I put them in both Algebra 2 classes, which you would never want to do that in real life, but let's just pretend you put them in both, right?
Yeah.
All right, so now let's just close this and let's go to the classes. I'm going to go to Algebra 2 here. Oh, I didn't make a list for what students are in that class yet. That's something we got to do too.
Yeah, no.
Be able to pull up a class and see who's in it, so you can take attendance.
I wanted to finish what I was trying to tell you. Pretty much. It's hard for me to explain this, but pretty much what I was saying. It's kind of hard for me to understand, like the data. But that's just how, like, I think I'm just having a hard time understanding how, like, the data works because we have an Algebra 2 class, but that is by itself an Algebra 2 class by itself, one single class.
Yes, it is one class. Yes.
And what I was saying is that, like, what if we have a professor that teaches that class? Because that's no longer a single class. If a different professor teaches that class, how is it not like a single class anymore? Not true.
That is not true. That is still a single class, right? Okay. Now I was about to explain to you how that works. All right. So I'm going to show you now.
Yeah, that's what I was struggling with just now.
Good point. Nope. You can have two Algebra 2 classes. And this is why, all right, so let me just rewind just a little bit. Remember I told you I always put IDs as my first thing? Like whenever I make a table and we're designing a table. Like what is, I mean, like, think about like what you would want in a class. You want a name, you want to know if it's an elective, you want to know if there's tutors, you want to know a lot of stuff, right? But I told you, whenever you make a table, what do you put first? ID. Now you're about to see why that was so smart. You probably didn't understand why at first, but you're about to see right now, and everything's going to be really clear. Why do you want to do that? Because now, let's say you didn't have this class ID. How would you know which algebra 2 is which algebra 2?
Well, there's no way to know.
There's no way to know, right? But if you have IDs, now we do know. Because every ID is different. This algebra ID, this algebra 2 has ID 1. This algebra 2 has ID 23. And you might say, this is so confusing. Nope, that's why you'll have class IDs. And you'll notice this even in your systems when you register at college. Even though there's multiple, sometimes of the same course, they have different IDs. That's how you can tell them apart.
So it's usually a different ID if it's a different teacher, right?
Yep, exactly. So actually, you can even have the same teacher teach both of those classes. Watch this. Let's go to Colette, right? Let's say she's a cooking teacher. This is a math. You know what? I should actually like do this right. This is a math teacher. I should give them math classes. This is a bio teacher. Why are we giving them these random classes? Let's do this right. Biology should be teaching what? Oh, we have no bio classes. Uh-oh. All right, well, she's just not going to teach anything. Math teacher. He's going to teach this algebra 2 class. Notice, what's that? That's the class ID. But we're going to also have him teach this algebra 2 class. Why? Algebra 2 is so popular. So many people want to take algebra. So we're going to have 2 classes, and he teaches them both because he's our only math teacher. If you remember, we only have 1 math teacher, right? I think we only have 1. No, we have 2. Okay. So we could have Stivers and Smith. Well, you know what? Stivers is on vacation. So John Smith is going to teach both math classes. And you may say, oh, it's so confusing. It's the same class. No, it's not. This has an ID of 1. This has an ID of 23.
I think my question, I think you did answer my question, but let me just make sure. So pretty much my question was, I'll try to say this as simple as possible. They're teaching the same thing, but like, I'm trying to find a way to explain this. It's kind of
Take your time. Take your time. Gather your thoughts.
So they are teaching the same thing. It is just a different class with different students.
Yep, different students, different professors, different everything. It just happens to have the same name. The name of the class isn't important, and this is why. And you're probably wondering, how come every time you make a title, it says ID? Every time tables, ID, 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 ID. Why you put ID everywhere? This is why we put ID everywhere. Because sometimes people have the same name. Think about it. There are 2 people named John Smith in the world, aren't there?
Yeah, there's probably hundreds.
There's hundreds. There's many people out there in the world that have the birthday, January the 1st, 2000, right? There's many people that were born on that day. There are many people there are many algebra 2 classes out there in the world. There are many algebra 2 classes in one college. Many times, the names of things are the same. How do you tell them apart? IDs. ID is always different, always. There are no 2 people in the world, or like, not in the world, in your college that have the same student ID. No one. People can have the same name, John Smith and John Smith. Yeah, okay. Jose Gomez, okay. But they never, ever, 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 ever have the same ID. And this is why we always put IDs, because then that's how you tell people apart.
Okay. I think I finally got it. That took a while.
Have 2 people out there in the world named John Smith that have the same birthday, that are both from the same city. And they could even both live on 123 Park Lane. They could both live there, maybe different cities, but you can have things be so similar, but you can always count on the ID to be different. And that's why we have IDs.
Okay, so as a final, I think I got it. As a final thing, pretty much, a teacher, let's say John Smith, right? He's teaching algebra 2 with the class ID 1, right? And Jonathan Stivers is teaching also algebra 2, but it's ID 1, right?
Yeah. See, I'm even going to do that right now. Calculus, and I'm going to take him out of this algebra class. So he teaches algebra 2 and calculus. Stivers over here, he's a math teacher, so we'll give him algebra 2. Actually, we'll give him this algebra 2. Okay, save. Oh, it's not going to work. Why? Someone's already assigned this class. You miss
Oh,
Algebra
okay.
2?
Okay.
Oh, it worked. I hit save. It works. Why? This is a
Okay.
different Algebra 2 class.
Okay. I got it. I think I finally got it. That's tough. It took me a while to wrap my hand around it, but as seeing you do and show me the class ID, I think I got it. That's actually really complicated, like the way I was thinking about it. But
Yeah. So no, and there's no way for you to know that, right? Because you've never looked at data in this particular way. Okay.
yeah.
So this is the first time you're like really looking at data by IDs and not by, you know, sorry, I'm like distracted. I'm like trying to put people in the appropriate, because I'm looking through here right now and I'm like, all right, who do I give college writing? We don't have an English teacher. You know, that's what your homework is going to be. I know what your homework is going to be now. We're not going to move to advanced queries yet. We were very close to doing it, but I know you're in a hurry to get off the session. So we're not going to do the complicated. Your next thing today was going to be, oops. Your next thing was going to be, do I have it anywhere? I think it's right here. No, it's not it. Your next thing was going to be a more complicated query. I was going to show you, I actually will show you. I was going to show you how you can tell what professors have what students. And I'll show you, but it's not going to be assigned homework. Your assigned homework, I'm just going to tell you right now. So your assigned HW is going to be, and I'm just going to make some quick notes. I'm going to tell you what your assigned homework is. I'm going to tell you what next lesson. And I know I said this was going to be more complicated querying, but we kind of got sidetracked a lot. Don't worry about it. Next lesson is going to be more complex querying, answering the question of how many what students belong to which professor. We will join 5 tables. So if you remember, how many tables did we have you join last time? Just 3, right? I just had you join these 3 things
2.
together.
We actually did 2.
No, it was 3.
Time.
There were 3 tables involved.
Oh yeah, the bridge table as well. Yeah.
Next time, to answer this next question, we need to get 5 tables involved. So it's going to be a more complicated query. Okay. So next time, I'm going to teach you how to do 5 tables together. And you're going to answer the question, what students belong to what professor. And I'm going to demo that for you really quick.
What is the homework?
Okay, your assigned homework is going to be, let me just format this. Good formatting is important. Have at least 100 students, which I think you did that already.
I did that, yeah.
Okay, so don't worry about that. Have at least 30 classes. Okay. You know what? 40 classes. Make sure every professor teaches at least 1 class. Okay. Make sure every class fits their specialty. May need to add more professors. So let's say have at least 20 professors. There must be more professors or more classes than professors. So for example, when I say they must fit their specialty, I don't want to see like dance class for a math professor, okay? So math professor needs to teach things like calculus. And then I saw things like literature. Okay, well that better be a, a literature specialty, right? I don't want to see like a math teacher teaching, Western art.
Yeah.
That's going to be like more of a history or an art history major or whatever, So yeah, basically I'm just going to have you, this is not even hard. All you're going to be doing is adding more data. And that's actually going to be easy for you because we made it so now you can just, and you can add more classes here.
Oh yeah, we have the pretty table, we have the good looking tables.
Mm-hmm.
So it's be much easier to add information now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's much easier to put students in the classes now. And I'm just going to delete this because nobody would ever want to take 2 Algebra 2 classes. You could, but I don't know why you would do that. So we're going to delete that out. So yeah, we have a bunch of students in classes, which is pretty great. And our professors, we've already started like giving them classes, which is pretty great too. Okay, so I'm basically just making some requirements to fill in the data. You understand what I'm doing? So you have 100 students, you have 40 classes, or you must get to 40 classes. You must have at least 20 professors. Every professor must teach at least 1 class. There must be more classes than professors. Make sure that every class fits their specialty. Okay, so you understand that. Next, we're going to say make sure at least 30 students have classes. So not every student needs to have classes, but at least 30 of them need classes. Those students that have classes must have at least 2, but no more than 5. How about that? Yeah, that sounds good. All right, so your job this time is not going to be any programming. None of this is programming. All of this is data entry. So that's useful if you're like an office person or whatever, you know. But I'm not trying to, let me, you may be wondering why I'm having you just do a bunch of data entry. This is not programming. This is just typing stuff in and filling stuff in like you're an office worker, right? You may be wondering, why are you making me do this? Are you wondering that?
No, well, a little bit, yeah. This is going to be time consuming. That's a lot of data.
It is time consuming. It is time consuming. I mean, you already did the students, right? So like maybe it won't be so bad. But you may be wondering, why make you do this? Well, because when you put in all this data yourself, you understand what things are supposed to look like. And this is why, because I made you put in all these classes and all these people, you were able to tell me, hey, Stivers teaches this Algebra 2 and Smith teaches this Algebra 2. And you were able to very quickly understand that analogy and understand how they connect together. Because you put that information in yourself. You just didn't know how to connect it. All I did was give you the information on how to tie it all together. So when you personally construct things like this, you're going to have a much more intimate understanding of all the tricks that I'm going to show you. So when I show you the fancy tricks about like, how do I connect all this together, you're going to be like, oh, of course that's the answer it put out, but you just didn't know how I did it, right? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to real quick show you something. And that's the complicated query. So what I said here, so here's your work that you're going to do. I'll let you, well, you can just watch this video to like look at this assignment again. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to demo for you right now a more complicated query. And it's not assigned as homework. I'm just going to do it for you. We'll teach you how to do it in the next lesson. But I'm going to say, hey, I have a professor and I want to know everybody, all his students, right? Like, even though we're not bridging directly to students, I'm still going to be able to tell you the answer to that question. So I'm going to make that query right now. And this is going to be the very last thing we do. We're almost done. And I need all of these tables. So I'm just going to say add. And, oh, they're all already connected up. Would you look at that? Let's just untangle that. There we go. Oh, we don't need version. Remove. Right, so we want to know, based on the professor, and we're just going to untangle this a little bit. Based on the professor, what students do they have? And you can already see it's all connected, right? So all you need to do is get the professor first name, last name, and the student. Oh, no, let's also get the class and then first name, last name. So now, what professor do we want? Let's say Smith. And then let's say view. Bam, there's all his students.
Oh, nice. It's actually a very simple query.
Yep, very simple.
I mean, I probably would struggle with it a little bit, but it didn't seem that complicated.
So how do you know this is correct? There's a couple ways we can know this is correct. And again, I told you this is just a demo. You don't have to actually explain, but go ahead and try.
Well, okay, so when we made our query, we pretty much took the names of the professor. And technically, well, yeah, we do need first name and last name, you know, just in case there's, you know, like Smith has a wife or something.
Correct. Absolutely correct.
And so we took the first name and last name of the professors, and took the class names of all their classes. And we have to have the class name because, you know, like, you know, what students does he have in his classes? Like, without the class name, I don't think we could really figure out what what students he has because
Actually, we could, but like I like see we could still do it. I just like to see the classes too, because when I see the classes too, it helps me like check my work.
But this only works because we have all of these tables linked together in like a giant bridge.
Correct. It's one
If
big
we
bridge.
didn't have it linked an entire bridge, we would have to have the class name as well, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But because we've linked it all together, we know that we can go from here, from professor, see, professor, all the way down to student.
Yeah.
We don't even need to include the class in here, but I'm just doing it just because. But because they're all linked, we know now how these are tied together. And you can do this for anything in the database, anything. So once we have like a huge spider web, you can take one little piece and connect it to any other piece and find out information.
Oh, okay. So like when you're querying, it's like querying your entire spider web of tables. It's not just querying, it's not just querying, those specific bridges that are off to the side or to the corner. It's actually querying the entire spider web of tables and bridges you have.
Well, everything you pick, notice there was one table that I didn't actually include in my spider web.
Exactly. Yeah.
This one.
That's my point.
Because we didn't need it. Oops. Notice there's also this table, but we don't need this. So I just didn't include it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just included the ones that were linked in the way that I wanted. And later on, you're going to have like a whole database full of tables. You don't need every single one every single time. You just need the ones that link you to where you want to go.
Oh, okay. See, I thought querying was, okay, now I kind of understand what querying is now. I thought querying was, it's just going to let you, when you type in the information you need, you grab what information from the tables you need, it's only going to be from those tables. But now that I'm looking at it right here, I kind of see how it works more.
Yeah, you have to go from the professors to the classes, and then from the classes to the students. And that's how you find out what professors have what students.
No, I mean the querying. I'm just kind of understanding the querying a little bit.
Oh, and here's the other thing. I said Smith, right? What if I put nothing? What do you think would happen?
Well, then it would just give you all the professors, all the classes, and all the students.
That's right. That's right. There it is.
Okay, sweet.
That's all the professor, because we haven't really assigned it that much. I literally just created this bridge, right? If we look over here, there's not even that many professors assigned to stuff yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's why. So even though we have like a bunch of students in classes, they don't have professors yet.
Oh, because we haven't linked that data yet.
We haven't linked that data yet, but this is what we have linked so far.
Wait, so could you repeat that? You said we don't have.
Oh, I said, look at all these students in classes we have, right?
Yeah.
So you may say, okay, let's go to a certain student. You may say, okay, let's go to this student, Brian Freeman. How come he's not in here?
Because
none of these classes have professors yet.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah,
so
that's the part I missed. Yeah.
Yeah. So none of these classes have professors yet. So of course he's not going to show up here.
Okay.
Because this is what? Professors and students.
Mm-hmm.
This is all about professors and students.
And classes as classes.
And classes, right. So you have to have a professor, a class, and a student for it to show up here. But none of these have professors yet.
Well, yeah, they have classes, but they don't have,
Correct. So once you link it, he'll show up in the list. So if I go right now and go, okay, where's that programming class? Oops, professors. I'm gonna say, let's make our xenobiologist. She's really smart. She's gonna do programming for us. Bam, and then save, and then we'll close that. Okay, and then now I'm gonna refresh this data. Bam, now all these kids are in the programming class show up.
I see.
Because now that this class has a professor, we can see all the students in that class.
Mm-hmm.
So now if we go, and you may say, well, we didn't do that. Yes, we did. Look, Jade's she's in programming. See? It's just she didn't have a professor yet for that class.
Yeah.
And now it's Joanna Humphreys.
I see.
See how that works?
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason I'm having you do all of this, where I'm saying, hey, you already have your students. Just make sure you have enough classes and professors and make sure you assign it all. Because once you assign it all, you're able to do these complicated queries. And this is why I had told you, like, fill in more of this stuff, right, before the lesson, which is fine. We ended up doing it during the lesson. But, like, I'm telling you to fill all this in, except you don't have to do it here. You're going to be doing it in here. All right, so is that all clear?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to save this query, and we're going to call this query what. I probably should name this better, but I'm going to name it what prof has what stud. What professor has what student. So now this query that I've saved it here, I can bring this up at any time. See that?
Yeah.
So now whenever I want to answer this question, I just double click that and bam, I know every professor and every student.
Oh, okay. So even if we add to it, like it will
Even
just
if you
add
add to it,
its
yep.
own.
Yep.
Okay.
Because we saved the query. So now you have tables, queries, and forms. You've seen all the major parts of this database. There are other kinds of things as well, but this is your meat and potatoes. This is if you understand all these things, you understand a lot about Access databases.
Okay. Okay.
All right, so we're gonna stop here because that's I think we've done enough for now. Questions?
No, you answered all my questions. Let me just look at the homework real quick.
All right, you can bring this up later. I'm gonna post this up, but all you need to know is you need to do all those things, and then I'm gonna show you how to do other complicated queries. So we're not just gonna say, hey, who's in what class? I'm gonna show you how to get things like counting the number of students and things like that. So that's gonna be next time. I'm gonna go ahead and stop this.